Good morning. Welcome to Money Markets and Motivation with Mike. Today's word of the day is divaricate, which is to stretch or spread apart, diverge widely of a branch coming off the stem almost at a right angle. So there is divaricate. The new growth is divaricate as it extends from the tree. We divaricate on many of our opinions, but we agreed to put them aside for family dinner. Those are a couple of ways divaricate can be used. And now we head over to our heat map. NVIDIA is bouncing today. Palantir and Synopsys are up. In technology, Apple is up slightly. Amazon, Tesla is pulling back. Financials continue to perform well. Energy, which has been leading the last couple of days, is doing well. Entertainment. And so that is where we sit there. It's kind of an ugly day in crypto, as yesterday was all green. Today is all mostly red. There's a couple of spots of green here. So we'll have to wait and see which way the wind is going to blow these cryptocurrencies. And so we're going to move on to something I think is important for your portfolio. If you're getting close to retirement, if you're at all concerned of a market crash similar to 2008, 2019, 2022, this would be a good place to put some of your money. This is a fixed index annuity. It goes up when the market goes up, does not go down when the market goes down. And it just keeps ascending the stairs, beats index investing by 5% per year. If you'd like to learn more about this, they also have bonuses for new money coming in. So that is the story there. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'd love to discuss it with you and take it from there. So let us move over to our charts right now. So this is a Chinese financial company, brokerage platform. We bought some of this yesterday and we added to it today as it is coming off the 50-day moving average. So that is something we did there. Oklo is having a tough day today. We have a pretty low entry, so we're going to kind of see where it goes on Monday. When you have a huge move up, it can also have a huge move down. It is bouncing off the 10-day moving average. It got pretty well extended above there. So we'll just kind of watch this. Earlier this year, I believe about a year ago, this was around $5 a share. So it's had a pretty big move. We are now going to take a look at our indexes. And the NASDAQ pulls back to its 20-day moving average. It is bouncing a little bit. It's off 0.29% at the moment. This is the equal weight on the NASDAQ, pulls back to the 20 as well and bounces. It is down 0.66%. I think it's kind of healthy that things are pulling back a little bit. It's just the way the market works. People take their profits. This is the S&P 500, pulls back to the 20-day as well, and then bounces. It is off 0.37% at the moment. The equal weight in the NASDAQ gaps down to the 50-day. It is off 0.77% at the moment. It is the worst performing of the indexes that we've looked at. The small caps pulls back to their 20-day moving average and pulled back into the pivot, it looks like, and then it bounced higher. It is off 0.89%. And finally, the Dow Jones Industrials pull back to the 20 and then bounce. It is off 0.19%. So that is a story with our indexes. Here's our sub-indexes. Start off with financials. Pull back to the 20-day moving average, off 0.21%. This is the one taking out Visa, MasterCard, and Warren Buffett's fund. And it is up 0.11%. Take a look at the VIX. Have to adjust our screen here a little bit. The VIX moved higher this morning and then now it is pulling back as the S&P 500 bounces a little bit. We do have a pretty big gap up here. People think eventually will fill because 100%, nearly 100% of the VIX fills. This fear index moves in reverse of what the S&P 500 does. This is 10-year Treasury, had pulled back quite a bit, gap down, and now it has filled that gap. It is up nearly 1% today, moving up to 4 pretty close to 4.2% interest on the 10-year Treasury note. The 20-year Treasury is up 0.76%. It's not moving quite as much. It is up 3.4% interest. Take a look at the bonds. The bonds prices continue to pull back as the interest rate they're paying moves up. It is priced at $886.60 a bond. And let us now continue on. Look at the hot ETF, NLR in nuclear. Big sell-off, bounces off of the 10-day moving average, up 0.55%. And move on to aerospace. It's pulling back to the 10-day moving average. It's pretty flat for the day. Energy continues to rise, up 0.66% for the day. See if we can see who's kind of leading. Seems like this company, which gets back to its 200-day moving average, is up 1.18. Expand Energy and EQT. EQT kind of looks like FUTU in a way. It got up here above its 50-day moving average, and now it's extending that. I think this would be an early buy opportunity right here. It's up 2.13% on the day. On to communications, pulling back close to their 20-day moving average. It's pretty flat for the day. Utilities had a big rise yesterday, pulling back about half to 3/4 of that move. Real estate, I think would be pulling back here. It's up slightly, pretty flat for the day with interest rates rising. Biotech pulls back close to the 10-day moving average after a nice move yesterday out of the pivot. The other biotech shrinks quite a bit, down 1.72% on pretty light volume, but price move is pretty large today. On to software. Software is bouncing off of the 20-day moving average after pulling back. Uh, Technology pulling back, now getting above the 10-day moving average, off 0.15%. Home builders continue their retreat, get into the sell zone. If you bought into the pivot, this is where you minimize your losses. So what we recommend, keep your losses 5 to 8% and keep your gains 20 to 25%. Take your profits at 20 to 25%. There's a little green zone up here that kind of shows you the target. And keep your buying in this 5% blue box. This is the way that you don't buy extended stocks, and that's how you build a profitable business. So on to infrastructure. Infrastructure pulls back to its 50-day and bounces. It's off 0.41%. Consumer discretionary. This is where Tesla and Amazon are. It's off close to 1%. Amazon is trying to bounce here. It does have some regulatory problems that it's been selling off because of some lawsuits and other issues. But if you're interested in the stock, please read up on those before investing. Of the big cap tech stocks, this is the one that has done the worst so far this year. SMH. Semiconductors, pretty much unchanged. They sold off to the 10-day moving average and they're bouncing. NVIDIA sold off, got under the 50-day, and now is bouncing above it. So we'll see if this is a mini cup with handle. Not sure if it'll allow me to draw this. Right about there. So this is a mini cup with handle, I think. Could possibly bounce into the pivot zone. The other one that seems to be doing pretty good, pretty well today is Palantir. Initially sold off down to the 10-day moving average and is bouncing. It's up 1.13%. We'll see if it gets into the pivot zone. It does have a cup here. Not sure if this is going to be a handle. So we'll continue to watch it. I believe it has a new price target of 215. And let us move on to airlines. Airlines fall below their 50-day moving average, off 1.38% today. Industrials pulling back below its 50-day as well. Healthcare really dives down 1.83% today. Consumer staples tried to move higher and then sold off, down 0.74%. Building materials continues to fall, down over 1%. Metals and mining, wow, look at that. Pull back to the 10-day moving average and bounce, up 1.68%. This was a big mover yesterday, pulls back slightly. You might want to take a look at metals and mining, see what is actually trending there. Home builders continues its sell-off, off close to 1%. and URA bounces. Kameko sold off below its 20-day moving average and got a strong bounce. Clears a 10-day up 3.32%. And our small mover here, this is up nearly 3%, really bouncing off of that 10-day moving average. Some people are predicting price over $4 in this company, so we'll see if it can get there. Earnings are supposed to go up 43% next year. This was a big mover yesterday in this energy fuels. It's up 0.53% today. Had sold off down to the 10-day moving average and got quite a bounce here. Kind of looks like it has a bigger move than it is saying up here, but it's going off of yesterday's low. So there we have that. Now we can take a look at where the big money is flowing today. So BHP, mining company, gaps up today. So this would be in metals and mining, I believe. We got a huge cup with a handle here as it pulls back. Let me see if I can go over to the weekly. And just look at this. This goes back to, see where this starts. This is over a year ago. Big cup with handle. On the weekly, it looks like it's in the pivot zone. Not quite so on the daily. No, I think it's just on the precipice of the pivot. It's a big gap up there. CCJ bounces off of the 20-day moving average. So the buy point on this one would be 83.12, I believe. Or you could go back to 80.42 as it cleared right here. So this day, and you could put like a 5 to 8% stop on here. We recommend that everybody use a stop to prevent any losses. Looks like it just went into a power trend. So the 10-day is above the 20-day, 20-day is above the 50, and the 50 is above the 200. So we'll see how that power trend works out. Here's one that was listed yesterday, getting more buying today. This is a Canadian manufacturer of ingot wafer solar cells. 29.83 would be the buy point. Just cleared that today. Yesterday was the early buy point. As you can see, it just cleared this bottom consolidation here. So this would be a double bottom. Double bottom. Here's the middle of the double bottom. Double bottom, the second low has to be take out the previous low, which it did here. And then it creates W formation. It is in a power trend, went into a power trend right back here. Early buy point over here. As it broke out right over here, and you'd be doing pretty fine. So let's go over to Centrus Energy. Enriched uranium for nuclear power plants. Look at that huge move today, up 11%. It is kind of volatile, so it moved up here quite a bit and then sold off. Let me adjust the screen here. But the one positive, all the selling was below the average volume for that. Didn't reach anywhere as close to the blue bars. So that should give you some confidence. Lumentum provides optical communications for manufacturing, inspection, life science fields. Up 4.5% today. The volume is a little muted. It's not as big on the pullback to the 20-day, but it is a nice bounce. It is in a power trend. 10 above the 20, 20 above the 50. It may be, so this is the left-hand side of a consolidation. May want to watch, get more commitment here, but that is an interesting move today. Liquidia got a nice bounce. Did move from the pivot, pulled back quite a bit. You may want to get further buying information. This is a pretty strong bounce off of the 50-day moving average. The 50-day is where a lot of institutions do support a stock on a pullback. They love buying on those pullbacks. So let's see if we can move on to our next one. I think it did move a little too far here. MP Materials, the government has say they were going to back this up quite a bit. Had a huge gap up on the announcement of that over here. Institutional ants, look at all these institutional buying right here. Went up to 82.50, pull back. This is a double bottom. Right here. Here's the middle of the double bottom. So you go right over here. The high was 75.43, so the buy point would be 75.53. And this would be, I guess, a couple of days ago would have been a pretty good buy point. It hasn't reached a pivot yet, so that is something to look out for right there. Uniquire, Netherlands-based company that develops therapy products for patients with genetic and acquired diseases. Look at that thing jump yesterday. Must have gotten some approval as earnings aren't for another 34 days. It's up 8.7% and a continuation buying today. Look at all that huge institutional buying. Huge volume again today. Sibanye-Stillwater, South African company in the mining of platinum. So there's a lot of buying in the metals department, up 3.73. It got into the profit zone. So this is your 5% buying area or pivot. And when it gets up to this green zone, that's where we recommend you take your profits, 20 to 25%. If you keep your profits at 20, 25% and you keep your losses at 5 to 8%, you're going to be able to stream a lot of profits. And it looks like this maybe a day or before the breakout into the pivot zone jumped into the power trend. As you can just see that the 10 is above the 20, 20 is above the 50, and the 50 is above the 200. USA Rare Earth got a huge bump in buying today, up over 8%. So we got a couple of Big days of buying right here and right here. Did not quite get as much volume on the selling day, although it did move down in price a lot. We'll just kind of skim through. So we got IBM, got a huge move in IBM, had a big sell-off over here. I guess they didn't really like their earnings. Their earnings came in at only 5.7%. People were looking for a bigger move in the earnings. It did consolidate, got some institutional buying nibbling here. And then all of a sudden, look at all these blue bars here. This is Kingsoft Cloud, China-based cloud management. Getting some pretty good buying right over here as it moves out of the pivot zone. Intel continues to get buying in there. So it gapped up here. If you're following the gap up rules, you would have probably sold here. And on this day, you could have bought back in. Got into the profit zone right here from the pivot. It's up over 7% today. Got a lot of buying. Got this huge day on the announcement from NVIDIA pumping in $5 billion. And so we got continuous buying right over here. So right over here, it went into the power zone. Look at all this huge blue bars. Did pull back to the 10-day, but it's been riding the 10-day ever since, and then it gaps up on the NVIDIA news. Solar energy infrastructure. It's been get a lot of buying here, so we got a double bottom formation. Pulls back to 25.91, goes back to 32, and then it undercuts to 24. I can't quite read that. 24.92. And then the buy point would be 32.12. You'd be 10 cents above the middle of the W. So the buy point would be right on this day. And did pull back the next day to the 50-day moving average and then the following day. But it did power back. Pretty strong performance right there. So that would be more of like a pink rally day than a sell-off because it closed at its high and the next day it just continued on. Let's see what else we got in our list here. Rubric. This is a recent IPO. Got some strong buying, but it's still below its major moving average. It did get back 20-day, but the 20-day is below the 50. So this needs to do some work yet. You could put it on your watch list, definitely. Had a double bottom over here. And it moved up from 47.35, so it's more than doubled to 103. You're going to have some consolidation on a huge move like that. So we'll just kind of see if it's able to break out of that movement. But that is our chart analysis for the moment. We're just going to take a look at some of the high flyers. This is app, which we have in our portfolio. Look at all the institutional ants here. Did pull back to the 10-day moving average. Does have a price target of $715, I believe. It's up pulled back 1.46 today, pulled back to the 10-day moving average. So we'll continue to watch it as a possibility. It could pull back a little bit more as institutions take their profit. A lot of times when you see these institutional ants, right after that, there is a sell-off, people taking their profits, but we'll just kind of continue to watch that. Micron, it's kind of sell the news. They had a very good earnings report. So we did take 30% profit on this one. It pulled back a little bit. It may pull back close to the 20-day moving average, but I think with these institutional ants buying in here, I think it's still a good opportunity. So we'll just see how it acts. We'll probably cut this if it gets below the 20-day moving average, but in the meantime, we'll just continue to watch it. NVIDIA, we're considering adding to NVIDIA right here. Got a pretty nice move today. We'll see if this is kind of a cup with a handle formation. And then Palantir, holding steady. And a nice move off of the 10-day moving average right here. We did add some more, I believe, right over here on Palantir. TEM got into the profit zone, pulled back to the pivot zone. It's off 2.41%, getting close to the 50-day moving average. We're just going to continue to watch this one. And Oklo, it's kind of in the middle of the range today. We'll just continue to watch this. Needs the moving averages to catch up here a little bit. So that is with Oklo. And I think that'll kind of wrap it up. We did look at Micron a little earlier. We looked at Amazon. Here's Tesla. Tesla is looking pretty well. Bounces off the 10-day moving average. Apple holding steady right here. Looks like it's developing a cup with a handle here. We'll see if it can break into the pivot zone. Microsoft holding right about its moving averages. Needs to get some buying coming in here. We got 1 day of buying, and it's pretty much sold off ever since that. Netflix holding right at all of its moving averages. We got Meta pulls back to its 50-day moving average. Google got into its profit zone. It's pulling back a little bit, getting close to its 20-day moving average. It's still in a power zone. So where did this power zone start? It started right here. So it's gone from 180 to 246. So you can see that power zone really lifts those stocks up. I'm wondering if I got Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, Tesla. Look at Broadcom. Pulls back to its 20-day moving average and bounces. Taiwan Semiconductor. So it pulls back, fills the gap, and then bounces off of the 10-day moving average here. It is in the power zone, kind of as soon as it got into this pivot zone in this area, it did go into the power zone. We do have selling, but this is what you want to look for in a bullish formation, where selling is all below the blue bars. When it gets over here, that's not something that you really like to see. When it's kind of muted selling, that is powerful for continued rise. So that is our chart analysis for the day. Now we're going to move over to our quote of the day. Our quote of the day comes from Oscar Wilde. Old brainy quote wants to make sure that we're human. Let me just pause for a second till this comes up. So Oscar Wilde says, some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go. So that's a little bit of humor for the day. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Appreciate you tuning in, and hope all of your investments go profitable. If you have a chance, please invest in your fellow human being. Lift them up, even if it's only with a smile. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day and a great weekend.